Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas Remarks with your host, Joe Staszak, my man, Steve Kallas. Welcome back, my friend. You've been
Great
all
to be
over
with
the
you,
ship.
Joe. I watched
The ship has
thank,
come in.
thanks to Rick Morris because he did a good job, great job as always. And so I thought you two had the chemistry we've all had for, 10 years or more now. But
He's a lot of fun to work with.
thanks to Rick, thrilled to be back. Watched a lot of football and baseball this week and ready to go.
Okay, well, let's talk some football because less than 2 weeks from today, it is Friday. The Eagles and Cowboys kick off. So I guess we'll start there. Micah Parsons, it seems to be deteriorating a little bit with that situation and signing a new contract. Now, technically, he does have a year left on his contract, and I know guys like to they call it like don't want to be dead man walking with that last contract. They like to be have security going forward. Jerry always pays his guys, but it seems like it always ends up this way. I don't know. This seems to be like there's some real animosity now growing between the two. How do you see this play out?
Well, it looks like Jerry tried to go around the agent's back and,
Not
just
a good idea.
and Parsons said, look, whatever meeting I'm in for any kind of contract, my agent's with me.
Agent's going to be here.
And so I think it's real bad because I don't know, is he in shape to play? He's there, but he's doing, he was
He
holding up
hasn't.
he's holding the tackling dummy up
He
against.
hasn't practiced. It's less than 2 weeks.
So I don't know. I think his fifth year rookie, and again, in the old days, we were always rooting for these guys to get an extra nickel. Now, if he just showed up to play, he'd make 25 million on his fifth year. And that ain't bad, but it's not number one, and he wants to be number one, and probably should be number one when you think about what he's done for them over the last few years. And you take him out of their defense,
He's a difference
I'm
maker.
not, I'm not sure they're not the Eagles. I don't think they're the Commanders even, with everybody. So if he doesn't show, then they're in deep trouble. And so far he doesn't show, so he's calling it to the bitter end. And I thought Jerry would fold by now, but he hasn't folded. He's got all the excuses in the world. And again, maybe once upon a time they worked. Here's a newsflash, they don't work anymore. And frankly, the Cowboys have been dead for what? They won the Super Bowl, I think, in '95 was their last Super Bowl, and they've been bad to worse for 30 years. I mean, so where are they going without him? Where are they going with him? I don't think they're a Super Bowl team even with him, but that's the best team they can put on the field. So you should give them the money. Again, these guys make now 35, 40 million. Jerry Jones said he offered him a contract that would make him the highest paid player ever who is not a quarterback. And so I don't know if at some point you say the guy's greedy, greedy, greedy. No, he wants to get his like so many other guys are getting paid. And it's a huge contract. We'll never know the real truth, I don't think. But if I'm Jerry Jones, I'm signing him this week.
Well, Trey Hendrickson is another guy in Cincinnati, 35 sacks in 2 years, and they can't decide, they can't agree on guaranteed money, so they're shopping him now. I mean,
And,
it's,
and I don't know if you saw the Bengals last game where Joe Burrow was running for his life on
I
offense
did, I
and
did. Just get
tackled on
down, down, Joe, down,
the
Joe.
exactly, or throw it away,
Throw it
whatever.
away.
But also defensively, the Commanders ran through them like they had eight guys on defense.
Yeah.
And of course, that's a big one. If Hendrickson's there, they're an okay defense, but he's their best defender by best sack guy by far. And if he's not there, then it's a similar thing with Michael Parsons, except I think the Browns defense, I mean, the Bengals defense will be worse because they were terrible last year. They were terrible in this
And they
game.
won 9 games, won the back of Joe Burrow.
Exactly. But Washington ran for like 185 yards or something. I mean, it was like 11 against 8. And with Hendrickson in, obviously they're a better defense, but they're certainly not a real good defense. So they better get him quickly too. I don't know. These guys think they're going on the cheap in 2025. That's a good way to be non-competitive or not competitive to the level you could be at.
No, I agree with you. Eagles, they start with the Cowboys on Thursday night. Relatively healthy. Landon Dickerson had his knee clipped. He has the meniscus tear. I don't know if he'll play on Thursday night. He is a key cog to that offensive line. I'm not too concerned if he misses a game or two. Johnny Wilson, who was having a nice camp, and I think he was a lock for one of those receiver positions from Florida State. Not a great hands guy, but they like his blocking. He's like 6'7", but he's out for the year. Hurt himself yesterday. And then there's Andrew McCaba, the rookie safety from Texas, had a pick six and a fumble recovery in the preseason game last week with the Browns. Hurt his knee, nothing too serious, but that job looked like it was going to be his to lock down, but he might have to sit out a couple games as well. Other than that, relatively healthy. Where do you see the Eagles? I just wrote an article about 5 reasons why they won't repeat as Super Bowl champions, just because history says it's really tough to do. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the Eagles certainly have a chance. I mean, they're just so good. They're so experienced. And every time we're going to talk about a big game with the Eagles during the regular season or the playoffs, what are we going to say? They got what, 30 guys who are on the Super Bowl winning team, 40 guys. It's you can never replace that experience. And we always talk about going, it's one thing to make the playoffs, then it's one thing to get to a conference championship game, then it's another thing to get to the Super Bowl. And very few teams, and the teams, frankly, in the NFL are what? The Eagles and the Chiefs. They're the ones who got lots of guys. Kelsey's coming back for another year. There's a reason for that. He thinks they can win. They've apparently worked on their offensive line, but I think the Eagles, I agree with you on the back-to-back. Why? Because it like never happens, virtually never happens nowadays. But I think the Eagles still have a big chance to repeat. Will the Commanders be better, good enough to maybe beat the Eagles? Maybe. We'll see what happens. Um, but I think the Eagles are a legitimate contender for the Super Bowl. Are they the favorites? You could make them to me first or second. I think, aren't they? And the Chiefs are second, I want to say. I
I think
haven't
the
really,
Eagles, Vegas has the Eagles as number one, but it's close.
which often happens when they win. Whoever wins the title in whatever sport, they're
Usually, yeah, they put them in the front of the list.
first or second or whatever. So, yeah, I still think they're big time contenders. And as you said, your guy Howie Roseman, he deserves like I'll say for the 10-year period, he deserves
Done a
the
nice job.
GM of the year for 10 years for the
Jahad Campbell, who dropped to the 30th pick, and he's traded up with the Chiefs. He's going to start, and he's
yeah.
been all over the place. They've actually had to calm him down a little bit. He's going to start. He's going to be an impact player, linebacker with Zach Bond. And I mean, the team, the one thing they don't have is a number two corner. Darius Slay left. Cooper DeJean was the slot corner. They moved him to safety to play a little bit. I would my philosophy is he was great at slot corner. Keep him there. Go find another safety. Justin Simmons was out there. He signed with the Falcons, so they're having some problems finding a second corner. And now with Andrew Makuba hurt. I'm not sure what they're doing at safety. So there's some juggling there in the secondary. We shall see. And of course, their front seven on defense, not the same. What they lost Josh Sweat, they lost Milton, they lost Becton on the offensive line, but their offensive line is pretty good. So yeah, other than that, they're relatively healthy and you should handle Dallas on Thursday night. We'll see. But it'd be nice.
Well,
Yeah,
it would be a shock if they didn't
it
because
would be
again,
a shock.
I don't know if Parsons signed today and suited up Thursday. What could he play? 10 plays?
Can he be ready? And I don't know if he's playing
Doesn't
today.
look like unless he's working off the practice field. We haven't seen him. I'll say it again. They showed the picture of him holding the tackle
On the
dummy.
dummy.
I mean, that's not ready to play. Now maybe he's working out on his own. I haven't heard that, and a guy like Schefter would know. Um, but I think it's a big advantage for the Eagles because even if he plays, and I don't think he will, he's not going to be Micah Parsons that first game on, 4 days knowledge. So
I agree.
whatever it is, a week, whatever it is. But I will say this, I watched the Giants last night against Patriots. They won 42-10. I know that's meaningless, but this Jackson Dart, he looks like the real deal and is getting praise from everybody. Nothing scares him. Don't know if you saw the game, but you probably saw the highlights where he had a long run and all he had to do was slide. And for some reason, he said after he thought he could split two defenders. You're in the NFL now. I don't know if you're splitting two.
Yeah, it's not college.
And so he did hit his head, and they did take him out, and those are the protocols. He said, "I've never." After the game, he said, "I've never been taken out of a game in my life," and I got the wind
Never
knocked out.
played in the NFL in his life.
Right, but his head did hit the ground. It was probably the right move, and then they kept him out, even though he passed
Probably the
protocol.
right move. It's preseason.
Yeah, but his stats. I mean, threw for 372 yards, 68% completion, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Yards per attempt, 8, which is a really good number. Um, and also an important thing, again, if you follow this stuff, now look, do I think they're the Eagles? Of course not. Do I think they're Dallas? Maybe without Micah Parsons. Do I think they're the Commanders? No, they're in a horrific division. All those years we would say the teams in the AFC East with the Patriots, they're in the wrong division. Whoever they were, they're in the wrong division. Well, the Giants are in the wrong. They're in the wrong division because they're going to have brutal. Their schedule is brutal. Wait till you see that, and we'll talk about it obviously right before the season starts. But this guy now, Russell Wilson's the starter. They've already named him. Um, but don't be surprised. I don't. I looked at the Giants' first four games. I forget what it is exactly, but it's like if they're 1-3, they're lucky. So if Wilson doesn't play well at the beginning, they might put this kid in early. But then there's the eternal debate. Are you going to let him sit behind? In fact, somebody was mentioning on ESPN, oh, look what Pat Mahomes did. He sat for a full year, but he watched a professional quarter, blah, blah, blah. And that's not why Patrick Mahomes became Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion. But that's what they could sell. The one thing I will say about the Giants is Andrew Thomas, one of the best left tackles in the league when he's healthy, is back and he's going to play. Neighbors, their star receiver, is back and he's going to play. That's going to really help. I was never a Daniel Jones fan, as you know. Of course, he's starting now. Talk about that another time.
He is, yeah.
He's starting in Indianapolis, but he didn't have Andrew Thomas at left tackle, but he had six, mediocre years. I think his record was like 24 and 44. But now they suddenly get a left tackle who's lights out if he's healthy. And they got a guy who's very athletic. I mean, this Jackson Dart is athletic, so he can do stuff with his feet as well. He can throw the ball. He's smart. He doesn't scare, blah, 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 blah. But then the games start for real. So we'll see what happens with him. But I think that's what's going to happen. If Russell Wilson doesn't play well or they're 1-3 or 2-5 or whatever, I think they're going to throw Dart in there. I like Russell Wilson, but we saw what he did last year. He could still throw the bomb, but he couldn't really, really lead his team to victory in a big spot.
No, he could not. And we'll see three quarterbacks over there. If you're going to go with Jackson Dart and he's your guy of the future, I would just, if he can play and he wants to, and they play him early and he plays well, let him play. Let him learn, let him take the hits. I don't know what they're doing in Cleveland. Joe Flacco's been the starter. Daniel Jones is now named the starter in Indianapolis, and it doesn't look like he's going to be on a short leash. I mean, Anthony Richardson, I think, is kind of a train wreck out there. But let's talk some Phillies. We only have a few minutes left, or baseball, but I did want to talk to Phillies because they're 7 games up right now, and it's the end of August. Looks like they're going to win the division, although stranger things have happened. Kyle Schwarber, MVP type season, 45
Yeah.
home runs. We'll see if someone picks him off after the season. Cincinnati gave him the key to the city last week. He grew up an hour from it. Thought that was cute. But Zach Wheeler has the blood clot. His condition his playing status is unknown. He still has a month and a half left to the postseason, but can they win without Zach Wheeler?
I don't think so. I think Wheeler has been one of the best pickups ever in the last, 5 years
Right?
where he's been in
Tremendous.
Philly. And he's solid in the regular season. He's solid in the postseason. And I think they really do need him. But having said that, they're big time players. Harper's waking up a little, as you know. And I did want to mention this about Schwarber quickly. So he now has 175 homers in his first 4 seasons with the Phillies. And of course, his season still has another month to go. So what they did, they put up on ESPN most home runs in first 4 seasons for a franchise. And so they had Mark McGwire at 191, Babe Ruth at 189, Schwarber at the time at 175. I know he's hit at least one more since then. I'm not saying he's going to catch Ruth. Could he hit 14 home runs in a month? Absolutely. But here's what I want to say about Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth is the Bobby Orr of baseball, I guess, or maybe the big O. Never mind about that. But so I looked up Babe Ruth because I'm like, how can he not? I know off the top of my head when he was Red Sox in 1919, he hit 29 home runs, not even playing full time, and set the all-time home run record. So the first 2 years with the Yankees, he hit 54 and then 59. So I'm like, wow, that's 113. But what happened? And here's what happened. In 1922, Babe Ruth was suspended for the first 6 weeks of the baseball season because he had gone on one of those. I don't know if he went to Japan, but they used to have those where they could make extra money during the off season. They would go somewhere, bring a team of guys with them, and Ruth was the main man in one of those. So Kennesaw Mountain Landis, right after this is only a few years after the Black Sox scandal when he became the commissioner, he suspended him for doing it. They told him not to do it, and he did it. He's Babe Ruth. He suspended him for 6 weeks. So in 1922, he missed 42 games partially the suspension, and partially he had that strange stomach thing that nobody ever knew quite what he had wrong with him. And he missed 42 games that year. So, like I'm saying, he had 189. McGuire had 191. You think he would have hit what? 5 home runs, 10 home runs? He only hit
Sure.
35 that year after going 54, 59. I rest my case. But I just want to bring that up. For Schwarber to be in that group, frankly, that's a big compliment. But Schwarber he's another between, we talked about it off air. Schwarber, I mean, an incredible pickup for the Phillies. So they're live. I think the Yankees are, they're fighting for a wild card. I think they lost their sixth in a row to the Red Sox last night. The Mets are another team that's struggling. They lost 8-1 to the Nationals. The Dodgers were having some trouble with the Rockies. So you're looking around, and I guess the best team right now is the Milwaukee Brewers. Last night, first team to get to 80 wins this
Yep.
season. I
Yep.
will mention, if
They
I can
haven't
mention
called
just one
out.
other.
I like the fact that the Padres, when Dodgers with all the bells and whistles and all the payroll they have, I mean, the Padres are one game behind them, and they're
Yeah,
nasty. That's a nasty rivalry.
yeah, and I thought they were a lock to win it all, but hard to pick the favorites. Or it's not hard to pick the favorites, but you're always looking for something else. One thing about the Yankees, I assume you heard about this. They hit 9 homers in a game on Tuesday against the Rays, and it was the second time this year by the Yankees that they hit 9 home runs in a game. And in the
That's ridiculous.
this is the problem with baseball to me now. I don't know, the ball's alivened or everybody's got the swing, the whatever the angle is now. But in the history of baseball and ESPN went back 150 years. So I mean, nobody was hitting home runs in the late 1800s. But in the first 149 seasons of baseball, two teams hit for 9 homers in the game. The 87 Blue Jays against the Orioles and the 99 Reds against Philadelphia. So those two games were the only two games in the history of baseball till this season with 9 home runs in the game, and the Yankees have done it twice. Now, the Yankees do have a healthy Stanton, who's made a big difference for them, but they're still just in the wild card race.
Sure.
And of course, they have Aaron Judge. So they were able to do it twice this year. It just strikes me that there's something wrong. Maybe in the old days, for example, the Yankees went back to back to back this past Tuesday. And I'm sitting there thinking, in the old days, after 2 home runs, the third guy gets buzzed.
It's buzzed, right?
And it goes down and gets hit in the ribs or something. And that really doesn't happen anymore. Everybody's like a multi-million-dollar entity in all of these sports. So we don't really want to hurt somebody. I think I told you the story where I think Lou Brock got a bunt single on Koufax, and the next time Brock got up, Koufax broke his arm. Or Drysdale, you hit one of my guys, I'm hitting two of yours, and he did it. It's a different world, I understand. But in the old days, it was just different. So when you never hear of, I don't know, the Yankees hitting 9 home runs, I think if anything, they would start throwing at guys, certainly after back to back, never mind back to back to back. It doesn't happen anymore. Not
No,
knocking that. I'm just saying it's an unusual game that's developed where you have two in one year and two in 149 years. And somehow that's hailed as an incredible accomplishment, which it is. But the question is why? Why does
why?
that?
It is hard to do. It is hard to do. Great stuff, man. We got a wrap. You can catch Steve's stuff on his daily Facebook forum page, Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas. Also, his videos on westchestercounty.com. You can find me on Instagram at Joe Staszak 975 or on X, Joe Staszak, actually, Joe Staszak 975 on Instagram, Joe Staszak 4799. And you can find this podcast on YouTube weekly, and of course, all the audio outlets as well. Good job, Stephen. Great stuff. I'll actually see you a little later this afternoon
Always a pleasure.
up in the big city. So I'll catch you a little later, and appreciate you watching, folks. We'll talk to you next time.